Hey guys, so I've been asked to go and make a tank build for the Ice Gauntlet and Blunderbuss for point tanks that a lot of people are starting to see in these wars. Um, you're starting to see this in some of the East Coast and European wars, especially at a higher level. The Ice Gauntlet and Blunderbuss is probably the single tankiest build in the game outside of maybe Hatchet Ice Gauntlet. But the hatchet isn't going to be able to do the same type of role as an Ice Gauntlet Blunderbuss because it doesn't have the same burst damage potential. It doesn't have the same amount of escape, and it doesn't have um, as wide of an AoE of Plague. It has a really good Plague with a 3 meter radius. The hatchet does. But if you look through the Blunderbuss weapon mastery and the Ice Gauntlet weapon mastery, you'll see pretty quickly why this is one of the best point tank builds. Um, just because of how much tankiness you have on there. People don't attack Sword and Shield ever. And Sword and Shield isn't going to give you a lot of burst damage, so or Plague. It gives you a decent amount of rend and some stun and CC, but the burst damage sucks. The rend falls off quick, and if you have your shield up, nobody's going to attack you. So this you could just pretty much sit on point and blast people. And when I do this, what I run when I'm asked to do this, this is actually one of my favorite roles. When I'm asked to do this, what I run is net shot all the way down. You can give this up, these two, the slow and the poison for wars, and end up taking ramp and future endeavors because it gives you stamina. Um, but I like the slow and the poison because you could shoot it when you shoot it to escape. You're slowing and poisoning, therefore doing more damage. And slows are one of the only CCs in the game that aren't affected by diminishing returns. So the more slows you stack on a person, the better. So I keep it, and really the things you get out of this, because you'd have to keep it in the same tree in order to get unload. Ramp 4% damage for 6 seconds. It does stack, but how many times are you going to reload in 4 seconds? You should never be sitting there auto attacking with your blunderbuss. Blunderbuss is all about getting your abilities off, doing maybe 2 attacks, and then switching back to your Ice Gauntlet. So I go all the way down through net shot, all the way down through Azoth bomb, because you want that final bomb. I take deep load because it's just a straight up increase 15% damage to the last shot. I take fortifying aggression. This is huge. This is a must have on blunderbuss, especially for tanks, because successful hits within 3 meters grant fortify. That does count towards your fortify cap, but it's a 10% fortify for 2 seconds. It's not that long, but it's long enough. And it doesn't have a cooldown. So it keeps applying every single time you hit somebody within 3 meters, and which is on point is going to be all the time. Unload is just more damage, straight up. So it's super good to take. And then I take Splitting Grenade because Plague Splitting Grenade is huge. And it's a pretty big burst of damage. And the burn isn't too bad either. This is also a must-have on a roll. Triggering an ability decreases all damage taken by 3% for 10 seconds. Stacks up to 5 times. So if you unload all of your abilities next to somebody, you are going to, especially in a clump, you're going to get 3 to 5 stacks of this. So that's anywhere from 9% to 15% just flat damage reduction. I don't think this counts against Fortify Cap either, because it's not listed as a Fortify. So this is just a flat damage reduction that doesn't count against Fortify Cap for 9 to 15%, which is pretty huge. This is kind of a dead perk because the only time you're ever going to be doing this is maybe on a net shot or maybe on a splitting grenade if you do splitting grenade then shrapnel blast and you're outside of the damage 10 meters away. Otherwise it's kind of dead, but you need it to get one of the most important perks in this whole build, which is Last Chance. Last Chance, whenever you take a hit and your health is below 50%, gain 50% damage reduction for 4 seconds. That's basically like an Undying, except not as good, because you're taking 50% damage instead of just living until it goes off. But the cool thing about Last Chance that I think makes it even better than Undying is that it only has a 30-second cooldown. Undying has 190-second or 160-second cooldown, which is insane, especially over the course of a war. You're going to be able to get Last Chance off a lot more consistently than you will Undying, and it's going to be a lot more impactful when you're on point. Now, as far as Ice Gauntlet, what I do is I run Storm, because you just put a Storm on point, and you're sitting in it, drawing people in, and you're doing damage to everything around you. And then I take Ice Shower and Entomb. Don't mess around with Ice Spike or Wind Chill for this build, because your job is to tank and do as much damage as possible while being able to sit on point and basically live forever. Ice Pylon is another good option, because you could set it directly like on the outside of point, and I think there was at one point a bug that was counting Ice Pylon as a person on the point when it came to defense. So what I mean by that is, say there was you and one other person on point. You are negating them from gaining influence, right? So, but say that point is at 50% and you want to bring that influence down. If it was just still the one-on-one situation on point, but you drop your pylon, then you're actively, and your pylon counts as a person, it's actively taking away influence. Because for defensive purposes, now it's 2v1 against the attacker, pulling the influence down. It didn't work the other way around, or I don't know if it's even still in effect. I haven't tested it, but it wasn't working for the attacking side. Like the attackers couldn't come and drop a bunch of pylons on point and then leave point, and the pylons would start ticking influence. It wouldn't work like that. It was basically if a bunch of people with Ice Gauntlets would drop on the defensive side, would come and drop Ice Pylons on point, they could effectively leave, and those Ice Pylons would keep ticking down the influence. I believe this has been fixed, but Ice Pylon is still good up to a point, but I just think that the damage from Ice Shower is too much to ignore, and the slow is huge. Pylon is really good for providing another slow, doing kind of stat patty damage, and making sure you have what is it? It's a 5-meter radius. It's really for the Ultimate Frost, but Ultimate Chill is just infinitely better, and I'll go through this and explain why. So Storm is a damage and a slow, and I go all the way down because it increases per person that's inside the storm, the damage increases. If you're at full mana and it's the first one you cast, it's basically free. So you should never run out of mana. And then incoming damage is increased by 10% for 3 seconds to enemies in Ice Storm while they're below 50%. So it's really good at helping finish enemies off. This is good for not only you, but everybody on your team. So anybody fighting in a storm, once they get below 50%, they're all going to take 10% more damage. You're not going to get that from Pylon. The perks on the left side, some of them are really helpful, like Heavy Freeze. Heavy Attacks while rooting is really huge because it's a 4-second cooldown, but it's a 1-second root for free just from landing your heavy attacks. Increase critical chance by 15% when hitting an enemy in a frosted area or or when hitting an enemy with Frostbite. So if you're fighting in your own storm, you're going to be doing a lot of crits. This is kind of meh, but there's really not any other option because you have to take all of them to get Ultimate Chill. 15% mana whenever you hit isn't that good because you're not going to be burning through mana that much anyway. Increase critical damage of Ice Gauntlet abilities by 10% while stamina is full. You're going to be dodging a lot. This is going to be happening very rarely. But it's cool for when you initiate a fight, or if you're playing off of point before you could actually get to point and your stamina is still full. This is helpful. This is good because whatever mana you do use, it's going to end up getting back because you're going to land crits with your Ice Gauntlet. Light and heavy attack damage by 15% for targets 15 meters away. Good for initiation, terrible for everything else. But you have to take it if you want to take Ultimate Chill. If you go the pylon route, you could go... I would just do the whole right side of the tree, basically, because this is super good, and the reason why I take this over here isn't just to initiate these, because the haste, while in a frosted area, is kind of bad. You don't need haste if you're fighting on point all the time. But if you remember to block with your Ice Gauntlet, what's going to end up happening is it's going to take away your mana before it takes away your stamina. So when you switch back to your Blunderbuss, you're still going to have full stamina. Which is super helpful, and you're not going to be using a ton of mana when you're using this Ice Gauntlet build, and I'll show you once I get into the skill rotation. So Ice Shower I take all the way down because you want the rend. So Frigid Showers is a 10% rend to anybody that goes in for 5 seconds, which is pretty huge. The 25% haste isn't great. This is huge. Ice Shower duration towards to 7 seconds because I think it's only 4. Yeah, it only normally is 4, so it almost doubles it. So it's basically a 7-second area where people can't go in unless they want to get rooted and rended, and then slowed. Because the slow is for 3 seconds after. The slow lasts for 3 seconds after leaving the Ice Shower. And then Entomb is great. And the reason why Entomb is kind of, in my opinion, overpowered right now is because it has nothing to do with your intelligence. The health of the Entomb is completely based off of your constitution. So the higher your constitution, the more health your Entombed is going to have. And if you get to 200 con, like I'm going to show you when I go over the abilities, your Entomb is going to last quite a while. Because it goes off of your resistances, your con, everything. So when that Great Axe or whatever is hammering on your Entomb, your Entomb itself is going to take less damage per hit because you have all of the boosts from your ability tree or your ability points, and it's basically doubling your health pool almost. So this is huge when you're fighting on point. And you're also getting a 25% increased defense for 3 seconds after breaking out of Entomb if you take Strength Entomb, which is also huge. Also, Cleansing Tomb is a must-have. Cleanse all debuffs when Entomb activates. If you're stacked full of debuffs and you're on point, boom, you're gone. Like, they're all gone. It just wipes. It's like it's a beneficial nullifying Oblivion on yourself. It's huge. If you do end up going the pylon tree, you basically are going to want to take most of these, plus you want to take the critical rejuvenation, and then you want to kind of stop when you get to here, if you can, because there's some of these that aren't really necessary. This is really good. Defiant Freeze is really good because if you cast while you're in your own, or if you cast anywhere, it gives you an Ice Hardened Layer, granting 20% Fortify for 2 seconds. I don't think that has a cooldown because it doesn't say it does. So it's just 20% Fortify every time you cast a spell. And since you're going to be fighting in your frosted area, your Ice Storm, this is always going to be helpful. Reducing the cooldown of all Ice Gauntlet abilities by 20%. The slowing enemies when they hit you with a melee attack is cool. It's not really great, but it's helpful because it only attacks while your health is full. Gain 3 mana for each spell cast while in a frost area is kind of garbage. But this, and the Ice Hardened Lair, yeah, Defiant Freeze are huge. But they're not really worth taking the Pylon or losing Ultimate Chill. Because the 25% damage, Ice Gauntlet abilities, chill targets, increases ice damage dealt to target by 25% for 3 seconds. That goes for everybody. And when it persists for when you switch weapons, because what this does is it's placing the Ultimate Chill debuff on your enemy. So anybody hit by any of your abilities is going to get the Ultimate Chill debuff, causing them to take 25% more damage from any source of frost for the next 3 seconds. So when I go into my weapons, so I put an Ice Gem in my Blunderbuss because it's cutting my damage numbers in half and making half of my damage come from ice, which is getting a 25% boost from the Ice Gauntlet. And it's also getting a 15% boost from when I go into intelligence. So not only am I so it's effectively getting a 40% damage increase on half of my weapon damage. So if you look at my attacks beforehand, before this, 126, 167. 126, 167, 145, 187, and then some crits. So it looks like the 126, 167 is the normalized damage. But now if I do this, and then I switch to this, it's 126 to 209, was it? So it increased from 167 to 209, which is a 42 damage increase. So about a 30% damage increase on that side of on all the ice damage, which is pretty huge, especially when it comes to your abilities. So if I do this and then I do my explosive grenades, it's doing a lot more. They're doing a lot more damage than if I do explosive grenades without freezing it first. So let's do it with Shrapnel Blast. We'll do it over here so I don't have the burn interrupting it. So Shrapnel Blast without. Let me pause here for a second. As we can see, the damage is between 192 and 204 to 207 and 291, and then we have a crit that does a little bit more than that. Take note of that for future reference. And then I'll do this and then switch back to Shrapnel Blast and show you the damage afterwards. As we can see, the difference is huge. The smallest damage we see is 274 to 336, and then it goes all the way up to about 315 to 419. I mean, it's almost double. It's insane. Hitting people in your own shower is just massively important. So that was just the bomb was a little over 1,000. I mean 1,200, like 12 or 1,300, and before it was only like 9. So you're doing a lot more damage when you hit people in your own storm if you put an ice gem in than you would without it. Now let me go over attributes. So the stats you're going for are 300 intelligence, 160 con. A lot of your damage is going to be coming from your Ice Gauntlet, but don't discount the amount of damage that you'll get from your Blunderbuss at 300 int. And the reason why I'm saying I want to do this, because you can do something like 250 int and 50 strength. So if I wanted to, I could go like this and do I'll respec. And then you put the extra into strength. Or actually, I'd probably put the extra into int so you get more damage from your Ice Gauntlet. I'm gonna keep my. You want to. The big thing is you could test it with 50 strength and 250 plus intelligence, or you can do 300 intelligence, 0 strength. It's really up to you. If you want more damage out of if you want more like single target burst damage from your blunderbuss, go with the 50 strength. If you want more AoE damage for the point and more sustained damage over a longer period of time, you're going to want to go 300 int. It really doesn't make too big of a difference. The big thing is you want to get to 200 con when you have your food. So if I eat my food, I'm at 200 con. You want 200 con because you want to get to the 10% increased physical and elemental armor. You also need the 10% reduction in crit damage taken and the increased max health by 10% of your physical armor because you're going to be in heavy. Now, if you look at my armor, you're going to want to have Leeching Shrapnel Blast is not a must-have, but it's good to have. I already had this piece on me, so I put it on. The big things you want to have are Plague Splitting Grenades. It's kind of a must-have. And you want Unending Thaw. Crystalline Curse is a really, really good Ice Gauntlet, and you could craft it yourself if you have 200 Arcana. You don't need the trophies, you don't need any of that stuff. It crafts auto 600. You just need to get the specialty ingredients for it and have it in your inventory at 200 Arcana, and you can make it. It's super cheap to make. Go make it. Otherwise, you can farm for, let me see, what is it? Frost Grasp, I believe it's called. Frost Grasp. This is what I was using before I made my Crystalline Curse. So, Frost Grasp is Vicious, Chain Ice, Unending Thaw. Also super good, especially the Chain Ice. Because, remember, you're getting a huge bonus to ice damage, or to any kind of sources of frost damage. But Chain Ice only works on auto attacks, and you're really going to be rotating through the whole thing. Once you see my gameplay, is you're just rotating through abilities the entire time. There's very little downtime to sit there and spam auto attacks. The only time you're really going to be spamming auto attacks is when you're too far away to use your blunderbuss, or you're in a situation where you can't really press forward without putting yourself into too much danger. I bought most of this stuff off the auction house, but what you're really shooting for is Resilient, Freedom, and Shirking Fortification. The biggest need, if you're good with your movement and you're good with your action economy, you're going to want a lot of Shirking Fortification. I would say that would be more important than even Resilient. But in order of kind of need, you're going to want Shirking Fortification, then you're going to want Resilient and Freedom, or you're going to want, right now because it's bugged, Elemental Aversion is okay too. So Elemental Aversion is basically working right now where you're taking about 3.6 reduced damage from not just elemental ranged attacks, but every source of elemental damage in the game. Abilities, auto attacks, everything. And that includes people with frost gems in their axes or their muskets or whatever. So any kind of elemental damage you would take, you're taking less just from having Elemental Aversion. So it's pretty good right now. For rings, Band of Ocean's Oath is almost perfect. It's ice damage, hardy, refreshing. It's intelligence. It's super easy to get. It boosts your overall damage by 5%, because almost everything you're going to be doing has ice damage in it, because you have the ice damage in your blunderbuss. For me, I really like it. I'm not going to spend a bunch of money going out and buying a Biss ring for this set. If this is what I did full time, I would, but I'd probably be looking for something with hardy ice damage and maybe what's the one that the Champion's earring has on it? Or the Champion's ring. the Invigorated Punishment. You don't really need Keen Awareness because you're not going to be getting. I mean, you're going to crit almost every hit with the Blunderbuss just because it's shooting 5 to 7 pellets or whatever per hit. One of those is going to crit and proc any stuff that procs on crit. Earrings, I'm just using Fanciful because it's free, and then I'm using Champions because it's free. So, just for testing purposes. But as long as you're getting to 200 con, you're in a decent heavy armor, and I'm going to go buy some gems because none of this stuff has gems in it. I'm going to put my Frost Grasp back on for this test because it has the gem already in it. I like to use the Cruel gem. I can't remember what it is. Malachite, because it's 12% extra damage against targets with active crowd control. Slow stun root. You're slowing everybody a hit. It just makes sense. Now you could put, I think you can put like a tier 2 ice gem in these too, and it would actually give you a damage boost, just because of the way that the math works out and the way that the damage scaling works with your int and the ability perk for Ice Gauntlet, Ultimate Chill. So that also works too. So I'm going to go back to Winsford and I'm going to buy some gems. This is going to be specific to you because I don't know what type of armor you're working with. When I'm on point, I like to have balanced protections. And since my armor, this weird makeshift armor that I'm wearing right now, is way physical heavy, I'm going to put elemental resist gems in here. So I'm just going to slap 5 Malachites in here. And then I'll queue for OPR. So I'm going to go over this a little bit. Now that I'm in the Outpost Rush, I'm going to go over this a little bit. I have all my stuff set how I want it. I have my Tainted Metal. I think I forgot to mention how important Plague Splitting Grenades was. You want this on your weapon. Tainted Metal you could buy, at least on Eldorado, for 10 grand from the auction house. It's a world drop that's bind on Equip. So you can just go and buy this from the auction house. Mortal Refreshment, it's meh. But it comes with Plague Crits and Plague Splitting Grenades. Plague Crits isn't that great. It's probably, like, if you do the S tier ranking system, it's probably like an A. Just because there's so many sources of Plague now that you see in wars. You have Plague Splitting Grenades, you have Putrefying Scream, you have other people with Plague Crits and Plague Strikes, you have Hatchet, you're seeing Hatchets more in top level wars for the Infected Throw. So this is a pretty good entry level Blunderbuss. You need Plague Splitting Grenades. So I'm going to pause here for another second. The perks that I would replace Plague's Crits and Mortal Refreshment would be any kind of attunement or a shirking damage or a keenly empowered. Those are going to be the big three. Keen and vicious and anything that does crits other than keenly empowered isn't that good. Enchanted is another one that you can use, but really the big three are going to be keenly empowered because you're critting all the time, shirking any kind of damage, and then or an attunement just for flat damage boost. Those are the best for damage increases right now. Awesome, let's get to it. I joined solo, no healer, just me and heavy armor. Gonna go do my business. Hopefully we do have a healer, because that'd be huge. Another thing I forgot to mention is that this build works in medium or heavy. It's just, you don't have to be heavy. I just find that the survivability goes way up when you have heavy, and if your task is to survive on point for as long as possible and be able to get in and out and pick as much influence as you can, heavy just makes way more sense. So my job is to stay on point and damage everybody here. But yeah, you can see I'm plagued right now. I have a decent healer with me. I was never in any risk of dying that whole entire time, and I was just getting spammed. I didn't even need to use my entomb once, just because of the natural fortification that you're getting from having a healer around you, and from Blunderbuss, and the Ice Gauntlet, you're just not going to die. And even if you get close, you just net shot out, and then entomb. And you only really absolutely need 2 perks, and it's Unending Thaw and Plague Splitting Grenade. This is super good for group play. I would not recommend this in 3v3s or duels. It's just not that type of build. This is a very group-oriented build. Looks like half their team went to go back cap us, so I'm gonna go back to side. But yeah, I'll let you guys kick back, watch the show, and listen to some music. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you guys are liking the video. It's almost over. This OPR was kind of short, and we kind of stomped it out. But yeah, your job is to hold the tank, survive, and do as much damage as possible. I think I got 9th place, 8th place in this OPR. I only got 1 kill, 1 death, and I think I ended up with like 50 or 60 assists or something. But I did a shit ton of damage, and I lived forever. If you're on a good team with a decent healer, and you're playing on point, this heavy build will allow you just to basically survive anything. Yeah, enjoy the end of the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all that stuff. And most importantly, have an awesome day. Thanks for watching. See you guys later.